Hi, and welcome to the Health and Wellness in Bayonne show. I'm Dr. Mike Acanfora, and it is my pleasure to have you back again today. My guest today is Dr. Noah DeKoyer. He's my partner, and he is a very good friend of mine. Today we're going to be talking about the paleo diet. And Dr. Noah, before we get into that, congratulations. Thanks for being on the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Mike. When I was about 12 years old, I was playing in a minor league baseball game, and my mother was sitting in the bleachers, and she was complaining about her low back. Mm-hmm. And the lady sitting next to her just happened to be a chiropractic assistant, and she said, "You should go see my chiropractor." So she did, and when she went to the chiropractor, that chiropractor told her a different story that she was thinking. She was thinking that chiropractic was just for low back pain, maybe a car accident, maybe a headache, but he told her a story of health, wellness, that health comes from inside out, that your nervous system controls and coordinates everything, and that if you get adjusted and your nervous system is healthier, you're going to be a healthier person, whether it's low back, headaches, asthma, allergies, ADD. So when she was told that story, of course her low back got better, she got adjusted, but she decided to bring her whole family in. Sure. Me, my brother, my sister, and my father. And I'll never forget getting my first adjustment, turning my head to the right, turning my head to the left, getting that adjustment, getting off the table, and walking down a hallway that I've walked down 10,000 times in my life, and looking up at my mom and saying, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. And what was even cooler was prior to this, the 8, 10, 12 years prior to this, I suffered from chronic ear infections, chronic strep throat, became very familiar with the Pepto-Bismol looking amoxicillin, the bubblegum tasting.
Oh, yeah.
And after that first adjustment, I never had an earache again, never had strep throat again. And 25 years later, I'm a chiropractor, it's what I do, and somehow I found my way to Bayonne.
Awesome. So tell us how you came to get involved with or look at the nutrition part of what we would say is a chiropractic lifestyle. So how did you come upon this paleo? And what is paleo? Because that's all you hear today in the news is the paleo diet and the paleo blueprint.
Well, when I was in school, my focus was chiropractic.
Sure.
It wasn't really nutrition at all. In fact, I got into a few arguments with the nutrition teacher because I didn't think he was focusing on chiropractic enough. But as I got out into the real world and started taking care of patients and subscribing to different websites and things, I realized that a healthy diet, specific supplements, specific exercise fit in perfectly with what chiropractic is and what chiropractic needs and what society needs. So it slowly over the years became a bigger and bigger part of who I am, who we are, and who the practice is. And that includes specific diets, it includes specific nutritional supplements, but most recently, thankfully because of you introducing it to the office or to yourself and to your wife, the paleo diet became a part of who I am, how I eat, dramatically changed my health profile and health situation, and is changing a lot of other people's lives as well.
Sure. So tell the audience a little bit about the allergies that you'd suffered from and what transpired after you started eating this paleo diet.
Well, since I was about 16 or 17, I had seasonal allergies. Pretty bad. Took all sorts of drugs. I forget some of the names now, but Zyrtec was one of them, and a couple of ones. Some that they've even pulled off the market because they found out how dangerous they were.
Sure.
And in somewhere, I guess maybe just that innate feeling I had inside, I was like, I'm not going to take this stuff anymore. Maybe that budding chiropractor in me said, I'm not going to take this medication anymore. And I stopped. Yep. And I stopped taking the medication. And every year my allergies would get a little bit better. I would tinker with my diet. I would try things like bee pollen, or I would try raw milk or other things, and my allergies would get a little bit better, but they were always with me. Sure. Fall allergies, spring allergies, summer allergies. Until last year, when I went full paleo, and we'll get into what paleo was in a minute. When I went full paleo around August of last year, I quickly eliminated all my fall allergies. I lost 10 pounds, which I didn't need to lose, but I did. And more energy, felt better, skin better. And then come into the spring, no spring allergies. I do have a little bit of summer allergy. I'm suffering with a little bit now. But since I've changed to this way of eating,
Sure.
no more allergies, more energy, sleep better. I think I look and feel better.
Sure.
And my allergies have decreased by about 80%.
Right. And what you and I would commonly do for our patients and for our families was with allergies when they came into season, they would get adjusted more. But really, for both of us, it was a journey where we didn't truly grasp what we were getting involved in and the benefits that we would see with our loved ones and with our patients who we care about deeply. Talk about what paleo is specifically, and then what changes you've seen in your patients.
Okay, well, paleo stands for Paleolithic.
Okay.
So Paleolithic was a time frame or an era in our evolution as humans from 2.5 million years ago until about 10,000 years ago.
Okay.
So a 2.5 million year range. And during that time frame in evolution, humans were all hunter-gatherers.
Okay.
Meaning that they, in the summer, if there was fruit available, they ate a lot of fruit. If they killed a saber-toothed tiger, they ate it, and they ate everything, including the liver, the organs, the heart, the meat. They used their fur, everything. If they happened to cross a beehive, they would eat the honey. If they found nuts on trees or tubers in the ground, they would eat that. And that's the way they subsisted. And that's the way our genetics evolved over 2.5 million years.
Okay.
So we now live in the Neolithic area. That's 10,000 years ago until this very moment.
Okay.
And in that time frame, what happened to humans is they began to band together in groups. They began to live together in communities, and they began to cultivate things like wheat, all the different grains, quinoa, oats, rice. They started raising animals like cows and sheep and pigs and drinking their milk. And that's only been for the last 10,000 years.
Okay.
So what science showing and proving is that there's a huge, gigantic mismatch with the way most people eat today and how our genetics or genes are set up. So we're made to be hunter-gatherers eating meat, fruit, vegetables, nuts, seeds, fish, fowl.
Okay.
Yet most of us are eating packaged foods, frozen foods, bagels, pasta, pizza, excessive rice, and foregoing all the things I just mentioned, and just creating all sorts of poor health. Then in the last 30 years, and maybe 50 years, you take into consideration our sugar consumption went from 1 pound a year to about 100 pounds or more a year. They've introduced high fructose corn syrup about 30 years ago, and all the different artificial sweeteners, and our health has just tanked faster than ever, faster than anybody can imagine, faster than our health insurance and the medical doctors can even keep up with.
Sure. I was just listening to a seminar in the car on the way up, and it was amazing what the presenter said is that in 1960, President Kennedy said, "We will send a man to the moon." And at that time, the equipment necessary to get to the moon was not even invented. So the money spent in that decade actually put a man on the moon. Well, if you take that money, in the same 1960s, President Nixon declared a war on cancer. And to date, every single year, we spend the same amount of money on cancer treatment that we spent in the entire decade of putting a man on the moon. And we're actually not even close to the cure for cancer, or putting the battle, the war on cancer. So talk a little bit about how paleo, or the real food, and what that does for our health and well-being.
Okay, so let me just reiterate what paleo is.
Sure.
Paleo stands for Paleolithic, and it is a diet that consists of meat, fowl, fish, vegetables, fruit, nuts, seeds, and eggs.
Okay, so real food.
Real food.
Okay.
We like to joke and say jerf, just eat real food.
Sure.
But when we eat that way, when we eat a breakfast of a sweet potato, eggs, and strawberries, and then for lunch we have chicken, salad, and some avocados with olive oil and balsamic, and for dinner we have broccoli, a steak, and some white potatoes. We're eating paleo.
Sure.
And by eating paleo, we are eating the way our genes evolved over 2.5 million years.
Right.
And it is no longer a mismatch, and it creates extraordinary health.
So I don't want to get too technical, but let's talk about our genes. We're both very familiar with when people say, oh, my father had high blood pressure, my mother had high blood pressure, it's just in my genes. Talk to just like with mythology, which I know you're a big fan of, talk about epigenetics for a minute.
Okay, so genes is or are our blueprint of how our skin feels, the color of our eyes, how tall we are.
Sure.
That's what our genes do.
Right.
And some diseases are genetically based.
Right.
But what we know now is that if we live the right type of lifestyle, 70 to 80% of the genes that cause disease never have to be expressed. And one of the biggest lifestyle factors is what we put in our mouth. So if you have the genes for breast cancer, which is a controversial topic right now, the BRCA2 gene, you have a high propensity and likelihood to get breast cancer.
Right.
But if you ate the right things and you lived a lifestyle that supported your genetics in a proper way, you don't have to express those genes.
Correct.
And that's the same thing for Alzheimer's. That's the same thing for diabetes,
Sure.
heart disease. You may be genetically predisposed
Sure.
toward or to get those diseases, but if you live a lifestyle that supports the healthiest you, it's likely you're never going to get those diseases.
And that's fascinating, and that's something that cannot be underestimated.
It's empowering.
It's empowering. And that's what we look to do with people that we run across, is empower them to take control of their life. We've been sold a bill of goods that we're not enough, or we're not the size 2 model, or we're not pretty enough, or we're not we don't have enough money. But the reality is that you can empower yourself, and you can start just by eating healthy. And what we've seen in recent studies is eating a paleo diet will actually help you with depression. It will help you with your blood pressure, will help you with, you name it across the board, any autoimmune disease that we see, and it is profoundly helpful in helping that person be healthier. So talk a little bit about what we decide to do in our office, and how that relates to paleo and people's health and wellness.
Well, first off, both you and I, we walk our talk and we do what we preach.
Yes.
So you've been paleo for 2.5 years,
Right.
Lost nearly 70 pounds in the last 5 years.
Right.
I've been paleo for about 10 or 11 months, getting close to a year. So we did it for ourselves. I know your wife is paleo, and some of our other family members are paleo. But what we decided to do was to create or to mimic what other people have done in what's called a 30-day paleo challenge.
Sure.
So what a 30-day paleo challenge is, and it comes in many varieties, but what we did, what's never been done before, is we said, okay, we're going to do a 30-day paleo challenge. We're going to give people the information they need to go on a paleo diet for 30 days. Nuts, seeds, fruit, meat, fish, eggs, fowl. And they're going to do that for 30 days, hardcore. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, that's what you're going to have. And then we're going to monitor their weight, because when you go on a paleo diet, even though you eat more calories, you're going to lose weight, hands down, without a doubt, and lots of weight, usually within a week or two. And then we're also going to do some elaborate nervous system scans, because we're chiropractors and we want to track that. We're not going to track a person's blood to see if their cholesterol changes, even though they can do that with their doctors. But we're going to track and monitor the one system that controls and coordinates their entire body, and that's the nervous system. We're going to look at something called heart rate variability, which is a test that looks at how you view the world. Are you stressed? Are you adapting? Are both sides of your nervous system interacting with the environment properly? Very important test, very easy. We're going to look at muscle tone and muscle tension. Are the muscles that attach to your spine moving? Are they tense? Are they tight? Are they spasmed? And then we're going to look at a thermal scan, which is run right up your spine, and that looks at heat differentials from right to left of your spine, and that looks at inflammation, and that does correlate to how your organs and glands are functioning. These tests are done within 10 minutes. All you have to do is put a gown on. There's no other invasiveness about it. And then the computer, the elaborate system, the Insight subluxation station, takes those 3 scans and comes up with one number, core score. And that's a health indicator, a strong health indicator. So that's what we're doing on our Paleo Challenge. They go on a paleo diet. We monitor their weight every week, every 10 days, and we get a core score, and we watch those core scores change and improve, and then shed and lose weight and become a happier, vibrant person in only 30 days.
In only 30 days. And what we've seen in the 3 weeks is quite dramatic. And some of the folks who have done the challenge are actually fairly healthy to start with when you look at them. But then in talking to them, tell the audience, and this has a ripple effect on it. It's not just the people that are involved in it, because they've gotten their family members to support them by also doing it. So tell them about some of the results that we're seeing in folks. First and foremost, obviously, is the weight loss. The one gentleman lost.
Yeah, one gentleman's lost 18 pounds already in 2 weeks. Our physical therapist, who's a beautiful young lady, she lost 10 pounds, and her core score went up 10 points, which is more than 10%. And it's hard to quantify that on TV, but that's dramatic health change. And she works really hard, and she suffers from aches and pains that most physical therapists suffer from. They're gone. She's sleeping better. There's a glow on her face. She's lighter. And the great part about that is, she's getting married in a few months, and she's going to look fantastic. My sister's doing the challenge. She's lost weight, and it caused her to have her husband to do a paleo diet with her while she's doing it. And he's a very fit man, and she says he looks better than he's ever had. Some other people that are doing the test, their parents are doing the challenge with them, and one person's father's has heart disease on all different sorts of medications, and he's lost 10 pounds. So the ripple effect in this first challenge has been tremendous.
That is fascinating. My wife had done, and what brought this on was my wife had done a cleanse. It was 3 weeks, and I did it with her to support her, and we looked and felt amazing after the 21 days. And Dr. Noah and I had come up with the idea, and then after seeing the results, and the funny thing was, all of my wife's friends also did a cleanse after they saw the results that she got, and the ripples have just started to become tidal waves. So talk a little bit about some of the references that we've used in looking at paleo, and give people some where to look for where to find good paleo diet information, recipes, and things of that nature.
Excellent. All right. So the godfather of the paleo diet is a professor named Lauren Cordain.
Yes.
He's generally, there's a few other like Art Devaney, some other guys, but he's looked at as the godfather of this. He was a lifeguard. He's an evolutionary biologist, I believe, and he wrote this paper, and it was in one of the main journals, scientific journals, and it started getting traction. And in his pupil was another gentleman named Rob Wolf, and Rob Wolf was a champion weightlifter.
Yes.
And he changed from a regular weightlifter's diet, lots of protein, fat, good carbohydrates, and for some reason he decided to go vegetarian and then vegan, and eating no meat products. And his health tanked. He developed ulcerative colitis. He became depressed, and he stumbled upon this information, became a disciple of Lauren Cordain, and within one meal of eating paleo, his digestive system problems stopped. He began to sleep better, and he became the figurehead, or at least who we think the go-to person for paleo, and his name is Rob Wolf.
Sure.
And he wrote the book called Paleo Solution, I think in 2010. It's a bestseller.
Sure.
And he's the go-to guy. And there's other people too. A New Jersey-born Diane Sanfilippo, who we both like very much. She wrote a book called Practical Paleo, which for the first 100 pages simply explains what the paleo diet is, why to eat that way, what foods to eat, and then it has 150 pages of just incredible recipes, from way to make different kind of stir fries to even baked goods to all sorts of delicious food that is solely based on the paleo diet. Other people are Chris Kresser, Kresser, and there's a whole load of other paleo figures out there in the blogosphere and in the web.
Sure, and what's amazing is that this information we would never have even been able to come up with this information if we didn't have the internet. Without the internet, none of this would. It would take years to gather this information. So that's what's brilliant about this, and we're able to take the information that we have gathered from our mentors in this field and apply it to our own lives and benefit from it as any good scientist would do, and also everyone around us as well. So some of the things that I see and that I hear are, I can't give up the bread or the pasta or the pizza. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, I would say, why can't you?
Right.
Why can't you? When you understand what those things do to your health, what bread, what pasta can do to your health, even if you don't have any outward symptoms, or if you understood how you would feel if you eliminated those things, it's not a big decision at all. And that's what and that's going back to the 30 days. That's what the 30-day paleo challenge does.
Exactly.
It's only 30 days.
Right.
All of us can do anything for 30 days.
Right.
And then when you see what it does for you, then you're going to go back to a lifestyle where you're 80 or 90% paleo all the time. Right. And then maybe have a treat every once in a while, or 10% of the time having a piece of a yogurt or an ice cream, but very few and far between.
Yeah, it's a friend of mine, another chiropractor up in Vermont, Heather Rice, that said 100% is easy, 90% is hard. And that applies to paleo, it applies to all of it. When you're eating this lifestyle all the time, it's easy, it's a no-brainer. So like you said, you could have bacon and eggs for breakfast, a chicken, steak, or eggs on a salad for lunch, and then for dinner you're having chicken or turkey, pork or something. and a couple vegetables with a salad or soup for dinner. I mean, that's not that hard. You're not missing out on what you think you're going to miss out on. And the unfortunate thing is people look at, what am I giving up? Well, you're actually gaining health. And you will not only look better, but you'll feel better and function better as well. So talk a little bit about how, with chiropractic and introducing that to people that aren't on the challenge, but just people that we've introduced paleo to in the office and how they've responded.
Okay, I have a patient who will remain nameless.
Sure.
I came in, he's like, I was your patient a couple of years ago. I'm sick and tired of feeling sick. Over the last 3 years, I've developed an autoimmune disease. I'm looking for something different. Mm-hmm. So we did the scans, and I started adjusting them. And I said, there's a diet, there's a way to eat, there's a template or a blueprint that I think if you give it a go, along with chiropractic, your life's going to dramatically change. And to his credit, he bought the paleo solution, he did the autoimmune paleo diet, he got on it, did it, lost 20 pounds.
Wow.
He's running again.
Wow.
His core score that we talked about went up 10 points, and he's got his life back.
Amazing.
And that's what we're seeing.
Yeah. And that's what I would say. I mean, do you have any parting words that you'd like to give our audience tonight?
Just look out for the future for what we're doing. Sure. I mean, we're going to create a 60-day lifestyle transformation program that revolves around chiropractic and the paleo diet and some specific nutrients. Don't look at it as a diet. Look at it as a template or a blueprint that's a little bit different for all people. But if you get that right template for you, it'll dramatically transform your life.
Fantastic.
Beyond your wildest dreams.
Fantastic. Dr. Noah, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll have you on multiple times in the future. All right, everybody. Have a good night.